There is some fantastic news. Donald Trump seems to be driving away all the right people. At the very least, lots of people seem to be, who are corporate shills, maybe not losing their jobs, but they're getting pushed off to other areas. Stephen Colbert has done so. Howard Stern isn't coming back after his current contract expires. And now it looks like Jimmy Kimmel might see the writing on the wall, because he is saying that he is considering fleeing the United States of America because things are so bad under Donald Trump. He got his citizenship in Italy, which, you know, nice work if you can get it. Like, if you can afford to do that. Let's look at this clip. He did an interview with his ex-girlfriend, Sarah Silverman, who's never been funny as far as I'm concerned. But let's listen to this.
A lot of people I know are thinking about where they can get citizenship and
I do have Italian. I did get Italian citizenship.
You do?
I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I do have that. And what's going on is as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Way worse.
It's so much worse. It's just unbelievable. Like, I feel like it's probably even worse than he would like it to be.
That part interested me, because I was like, what does that mean? Let's finish it, and then we'll go back to that.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I do, every once in a while, I'll Google Trump regrets or MAGA regrets just to see all the people that I'm not happy that they're upset, and but it makes me hope that maybe this will bring people together.
So when he says it's worse than Trump would want it to be, what does he mean by that?
I feel like, I mean, I don't understand any of that at all. Like, what is so bad that has happened in the past 7-8 months for someone like him? Like, what has materially changed in his life that is so terrible where he's like, man, I have to leave the country?
My guess is that it's got nothing to do with that and everything to do with immigration and virtue signaling from them, because it doesn't affect them. Right?
If you're in Hidden Hills.
That and Doge. I think the craziest thing I saw recently was I saw a sign outside a house that said, like, support government workers.
Yeah.
I was like, what? What? I don't know what they're on about, but like you said, they are in a tax bracket that means that you or we don't live in the same world as people who live in that world, right? So I don't know what he means by that. I know that it's a virtue signal, and that it's got very little to do with actual reality, and that it wouldn't matter what he did. The joke is always, if he cured cancer, they'd complain about it. Yes, that is ostensibly true. They would. But they would complain about anything related to this. And I do wonder if it's going to change when Trump leaves office, because whoever ends up next in line just won't inspire the same level of anger that's kind of formulated and built over the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, they kind of do this thing. They do sometimes people do it on the right too, like they did with Joe Biden, but with Donald Trump, where they're convinced that there's this sizable chunk of Trump voters that like regrets their vote. Yeah, and it's just never borne out in the data, nor when you meet Trump's. Like, I don't know who they're talking to. They just make it up in their head, because it's like same with Joe Biden voters. Is the reality is 90% of the voters are just kind of like, yeah, I voted for him, I supported him. Like, yeah, it's not that complicated. I'm not gonna be upset about it.
Well, because in their mind, what their intention is to believe that you were duped. You're stupid and you were duped. Yeah. And since I believe that what he's doing is evil, then you were duped into believing that evil was okay, and now you've realized that it's not, which is not in line with reality, because we understand that enforcing policy is not evil, at least not in this context. That's not what this is. Enforcing strict immigration laws is not an evil policy. It's supposed to actually be something that's pro-American citizen, and was something that Democrats believed all the way up through Obama, right? Like he talked about border security. And Bernie Sanders used to talk about how illegal immigration was a Koch brothers conspiracy to bring in foreign workers to drive down wages. And they've gone so far left, they don't understand that. Plus, it wouldn't matter. These people, they are just going to be the opposite of whatever he says anyways, because they've been steadfast in that since the beginning. All of the late night show hosts, outside of even Jimmy Fallon, who we joked about yesterday, has started making like more Trump jokes now because he's getting backlash for having Gutfeld on. He's like back to dunking on Trump a little bit because he has to like find his way back.
Calm down, I hate him. Calm down, I hate not only just hate Trump, I hate half the country.
Yeah,
because they're not mad at Jimmy Kimmel for having Trump on, because that happened ages and ages and ages ago. They're mad at him for having a conservative on, which is really, it speaks to the mindset of people on the left and the you know, whatever you want to, I don't know what you call these people. I don't know if they're not liberals, or maybe they're called liberals, but they're not actually liberals. But I guess, for lack of a better term, the liberals in the U.S., the left, the Democrats.
They're the leftists. They're the far leftists.
But I don't think that Jimmy Kimmel's audience is actually leftist. I don't think they're actually committed ideological.
So is it
leftists.
just kind of like what people deem as like you can be considered on the right as long as you're anti woke enough?
Kind of. So
like nobody's calling me a conservative, nor should they.
So like I think that like Tim's functional definition of woke, right? I think that's actually really useful. That whole like the they don't, you know, where they don't have an ideology, they don't know anything about critical theory, they don't actually know anything about leftism, the philosophy of leftism or the philosophies on the left. They just know what like their friends say they're supposed to say, and they hear buzzwords and they just regurgitate those. They're not actually leftists. They're just kind of doing what they think is like the right thing and what you're supposed to believe. That's what Jimmy Kimmel's audience is. They don't know anything about Foucault. They don't know anything about Marx. They don't know anything about Herbert Marcuse or Antonio Gramsci or any leftists, actual like leftist philosophers, or where any of that philosophy comes from. They just know that this is what they're supposed to think if they're going to be the, you know, good people. That's what Jimmy Kimmel's got, and so that's why I have a hard time calling them liberals, even though that's what most conservatives would call them, and
well, I don't like that either, because like I still
they're not, because they're illiberal too.
Yeah. Like for me, in the space that I'm in, like nobody that works at this company would consider me a conservative by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think I fall into the parameters for that. And a big part of the arguments that people on the right end up getting in is talking about people grifting as conservatives when they're just not understanding the term, or they don't realize that they don't necessarily fall into that category, but they don't fall into the category of a traditional liberal anymore anyways, because the Overton window has been pushed so far the opposite direction that nobody fits into it because there's such a big gap in the middle.
Someone in the chat said that liberalism is leftist, and then they called me a name, and it's not. You're an idiot. Okay, that it's not. Liberalism is not leftism. They're totally different. If you listen to actual leftists, they hate liberals, because liberals aren't willing to go as far as they're supposed to. Yeah, liberals get the bullet too. You're a moron. And you're getting that because you insulted me. Like, I know what the hell I'm talking about. Liberals are not leftists. Functionally, the term talks about the left in the United States when you say the liberals, but that's not actually where leftism comes from. And liberals don't, again, like I said earlier, they don't know who Foucault is. They probably don't know who Antonio Gramsci is. They don't know Marx. They're not Maoists. They're not Marxist-Leninists. They're not liberals, and leftists are not the same. So don't call me names.
You also get this thing
when you're wrong.
Yeah. And it's also like with the Fallon thing, I think we're underrating like the resentfulness of his writers.
Yeah.
Because his writers are really driving a lot of these like crappy jokes.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, in that writing room, most of those kids are from Michigan, Tennessee, Georgia, from like from the homeland, and their dad loved that Gutfeld came on. And he called them and he said, "Man, I watched your show. Like, it was so cool that Gutfeld on." And they hated that. They hated that their father approved of a guest that they had on, and they hate that it's eating away at them.
I mean, that's kind of been the blueprint for Hollywood for a very long time, which is like very few of the people are actually from there, like New York City, right? Which is that they travel there from the Midwest or from the South because they dream of a career in working in those industries. And it's actually one of those things, if you ever go down the rabbit hole of like the insane amount of work it takes and luck to make it in that industry, it's like it's such an undertaking, and they develop that resentment because they go after something big and not everyone's going to get it. Right? There was Jimmy Kimmel had more to actually, you know what? First, I'm going to say Trump had his own comments about this, which I laughed about. He says he made a similar declaration on Truth Social after Colbert's cancellation about Kimmel and Fallon. He says the word is that it's a strong word that Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late night sweepstakes, and shortly after Fallon will be gone. So he likes to push the buttons and prod at the late night hosts who used to love this guy back in the day. I mean, maybe not these guys, because Trump's time in the spotlight started well before they were part of the late night scene. We're talking more Leno and Letterman. But then Jimmy Kimmel actually got into more about this, and it is hilarious to see like Jimmy Kimmel talking politics with Sarah Silverman, which actually just sounds like a certain level of hell that I just hope I'm never actually subjected to. But here we go.
It's the loud voices that scare people from saying what they believe and make you think twice about a joke or whatever, these things. And, a lot of their points are valid, but a lot of them are also just repulsive. And I mean, they repel people from, they go like, oh, you're no fun. I don't want to be around you. And I think that if you had to boil it down to like one thing, that's kind of what it is. It's like, oh, you're no fun. I don't want to be part of your group.
So he was talking about leftist voices, like making it impossible for people to stay in line over there, so that everybody abandons them because they're like, look, this is stupid, this is boring, and everything I do is wrong.
Yeah, and that's that kind of actually speaks to what I was saying. The leftists hate the liberals. The liberals are like, no, see, we have the correct opinions. We're politically correct, which the term politically correct comes from the Soviet Union. Like, it comes from
Is that
communism.
true? I didn't know that.
It's politically correct. That phrase comes from the Soviet Union.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought this one was really funny. It says, it's ironic that Jimmy Kimmel is talking about the possibility of leaving the country and relocating to Italy, where he has citizenship because of the POTUS's policies. Does anybody want to tell him about Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and her policies? Weren't people calling her a fascist not that long ago?
If I understand, I may be wrong, but if it's not her, someone else that is popular in Italy is like a descendant of Mussolini, and actually a very, very has a lot of fascist leanings, and I'm talking about real fascist leanings. Look, man, if he goes to Italy now, Meloni is probably more right-wing than Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is just a 90s Democrat. Yeah,
it is crazy how much anybody who watches this show knows that most of the stuff I watch is like old TV shows from the 80s or from the 90s and the early 2000s. And it's so funny to watch old TV shows where so much of today, it just wasn't taboo back then. Like, you watch old cop shows and there's ICE officers and there's nobody talking about them like they're evil because they were stopping terrorists or they were all of these things that were completely normal in the early 2000s, which are now even the term illegal alien, which would be used now, is politically incorrect. I recommend going back and watching old episodes of the show Third Watch, which was like this, it was the lives of like EMS workers and cops in New York in from 99 to 2002. So you got to experience the show before 9/11 and after 9/11, and it's really funny to see how different the world is now as opposed to the way things were back then. So,
thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.